Welcome to Montreal Rocks. We're happy to have today Amber Swenor from the band Morningstar. Now, Amber, we've known each other for quite some time, uh, and I was,
Yes.
really excited to find out that you have a new single out, which is behind me. It's called Free. So we're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about your origin story. But first of all, welcome to the show.
Thank you. I know it is fun looking back on the years we've known each other and how all the different dots connected. And it's so cool coming back to music, connection between both of us.
Exactly. I mean, in your professional life, you're a leadership coach, a speaker, an author, and an entrepreneur, which is the events we met at, and we've, known each other for quite a few years. But you're originally well, you're now in Madison, Wisconsin, and I was really excited to find out you were in a band, and now I got to hear what the band sounds like. So the band is called Morningstar, and I kind of wanted to go a little bit into the origin story, which I always like to start my interviews
Yeah.
because I want to find out where did this come from. Now, Amber, you've talked about finding a Metallica tape when you were at the age of 10.
Oh,
What
I
was
like
it?
it. We're going way back.
Yeah, let's go
Yeah.
back. What was it about metal that clicked with you even way back then at the age of 10?
Okay. So, yeah, I remember I had grown up in town before I moved to a rural area and I loved going to the park. And I found two tapes that day, a cassette tapes. And some kid back then is sad that they lost their tapes. One was Metallica and one was the artist who sings like Hot Stepper. They call me Hot Stepper, burn up. I have to look up the name. But so it's funny because it was that too eclectic like mix, which I love a hip hop and metal. I remember though, being intimidated or like, what is this? Because I was around 10 years old. So when I heard Metallica, um, and at first I like didn't know what to think, but I always have identified with rock and roll. Like I loved Pat Benatar, Joan Jett, and I think just something about the feeling and expression and I didn't know it then as a kid, but I understand better now. I just had like a lot of intense feelings and emotions. And maybe that's normal, like maybe everyone does. But I was a really sensitive kid. And I think I was just processing a lot of things, being very empathic and just being surrounded in some sense by some level of turmoil in my life. And I think I felt the expression of like intensity that metal and rock brings. It's an outlet.
Yeah. I think especially for those that keep things inside, hearing somebody else release it with such force sometimes it's funny. I wish I could do that. I wish I could take what's inside of me and let it come out.
Yes. Yeah. There's just so many pieces of it, like so many angles. I mean, I can even think about the stories I got growing up that I was like too loud or like taking over too much of the attention in the room. And the thing about performing music is you can be loud, you can be quiet, like you can do any of that. And that's the beauty of the art.
Yeah. So
uh,
and there is a time in a child's life or a certain point in your life where music goes from something you hear to something you feel. And sometimes it's tapping into that music that connects, that just opens up this whole new world. So that's to me what happened to you. All of a sudden, maybe you're listening to your parents' music in the car before then. All of a sudden you hear something and it says, I can identify with this. This is mine. I'm on
yeah.
this path now. And that opens up all kinds of other paths.
And I'll say it started even before 10. My earliest memories were that I was meant to be a music creator. My earliest memories was music, and I always have loved dogs and I've had a connection with dogs. And that's like the earliest memories of being 3, 4 years old. And there was videotapes of like me making up songs at 4 years old and dressing up and then in different outfits. It was kind of fun to look back how even back then I would experiment with like the dark leather and then like the white angelic. And I was like, wow, this is so wild. Some ways who we are as kids, we're still as adults because there's just so much in that too that I'm all about embracing the wholeness of who we are. But we had things called sock hops at our school when I was a
Yeah.
little kid. So that was more like the 50s and 60s music, but I loved like moving my body and like rocking out. So I just always was connected with music, but Yeah, it was, we do mostly hear what our parents listen to, which mine listen to a lot of country and a lot of 50s and 60s, which is cool, but I identify with something more intense, which I discovered later.
It's interesting that you brought that darkness and lightness together because uh, I do like metal. I like the hard hitting stuff. I am not attracted to where it goes really dark, like it goes into the weirdo stuff. Yet
Understand that.
you have a metal that is, and I think it comes from your personality, your coaching business. You're all about, looking into yourself, introspection, doing the deep work. And you actually have metal that's, talking about things that are on the light side, if you want to think about it, it's personal
Yeah.
growth and things like that.
Yeah. And thank you for seeing that. Because honestly, for years, I really struggled in questioning like on how to be myself as an artist because there was this dichotomy where I've always been attracted to rock and metal, but there were aspects of sometimes that lifestyle that I was like, that's not me, that's not for me. And I think it's cool. Everyone can create all their kinds of art, but I also like really want to have meaning and depth behind what we sing. And I really doubted myself for years, like, are we were told we were too heavy for rock, too light for metal, and we just had to keep going and like exploring. And my lifelong partner, who's also our guitarist, he and I, and that's like been really supportive that we're always like on the same page to keep evolving. And we've always been really supportive of each other in like trying new ideas and what we're writing and wanting to have it be something real. Like it doesn't not like in your face, we're not trying to preach through our music, but just like there is a behind the words emotion and real feeling of like really trying to express something meaningful. But it took me a number of years to be comfortable with that point because I used to worry that I didn't fit in these other genres or ways of being metal. And so I didn't know, if I had a place in it until we just kept going and started picking up fans along the way, thankfully.
What's interesting is that we both go to at least one event in common, which is Archangel, now called Destiny Fest.
Yeah.
And that's all about doing the deep work and actually finding out who you are and being true to yourself. And I think that probably helped along the way because it takes some of that work. I think as any artist, there's a lot of doubt. There's a lot of naysayers. There's people that telling you where they think you should go, but when it comes down to it, as an artist, you're the one who's navigating that boat. You're the one behind the steering wheel. You got to go where it feels right. Because if you start doing something just because somebody else thinks that's the way you should go, or a record label or a manager, then it's going to start not being authentic. And I think that's where there's a disconnect. And I think there's a lot of artists that are doing things just maybe to be popular or trying to, surf a wave that's currently hot, but they're doing it without the passion, without emotion. But I mean, you've got emotion and passion like written all over you. When we meet you in person, you're just like, you're a dynamic personality. I think
Uh,
you follow that.
well, thank you for sharing that because just last night I was saying to Brandon, I was like, we need to remember to trust our art. And if even it seems weird or pushes the boundary or doesn't follow the rules, let's freaking do it. Like just reading some of the headlines of different artists that have been critiqued through the years, but are actually like taking off now who have done things their own unique way. And I think that's a reminder and a metaphor, for a lot in life. And you said something that I really want to share about going to some of our personal development events and how I've grown through that. So I totally see that my whole experience of becoming a business owner and all my personal growth journey and healing and so much like unpacking of so much the last 10 years, it all directly impacted and walked step in step with my journey as a musician. Like it all evolved together because like the ways that I was afraid to be myself in business was the same way that I years ago when I was performing, I was more concerned about what are people thinking? Do I look stupid? Versus this journey where I went on the 10 years as I stepped into my confidence to do business my unique way and own my voice and like focus on connection and not worry about what do they think. Focus on how do I help get an outcome and solve problems. The same positive thing happened with my music, where now I just fully embody, like, I am focused on connection with the audience. I don't give a crap or think at all about what are they thinking, or like,
Mhm.
I don't know if like my shirt falls out and looks funny, or if I sometimes like we're sweating so much and I'll like smudge my lipstick all over my face, and like I don't care anymore. But it's really sad how much energy and thought used to go to that,
Yeah.
you know?
It's
But I mean,
it's
yeah,
there's a
it's
big mindset shift when that starts happening. I think a lot of people, unfortunately, has to happen in their 50s, for me anyway, is where once I stopped caring, things all of a sudden started working out for me in my business and my personal life because I stopped trying to impress other people. And once I did that, I could be my authentic self. And that's where I was able to connect with people. Before that, I was trying to do the fake it till you make it, maybe, entrepreneur type thing, and it just wasn't connecting. It wasn't true. It wasn't my personality. I was trying to be somebody I wasn't. I think that's a good lesson for both business and art. You have to be who you are.
completely. And I love that because you are awesome as you are. You're like just so generous and thoughtful, and you're just, yeah, it's fun being around you and people like you. And so I think most people go on this journey, and we go on it when we go on it. Because I did the same thing of like this frustration of why couldn't I have experienced that 10 years earlier? Why did I have to go? We all in our own way go through that journey. But I think when we talk about it and we help other people by being who we are, again, there's no timeline on it, but maybe we can help people earlier in that journey.
Yeah.
And that's pretty awesome,
Well,
you
they say,
know?
what is it? The best time to plant a tree is 100 years ago. The second best time is right now. So,
Exactly. Yes.
so we're going back again to your history. So
Yeah.
you got the tape, you're 10 years old, you're into metal. All of a sudden you see a newspaper ad. What was the ad and why did you answer it?
Okay. So this is fun. So I went off to college, found myself back in the hometown where I was from. I had always wanted to start a band, and my friend saw an ad in a small, very small rural town where it's like a bunch of small farm towns. A lot of Amish live there. And the small town newspapers had the classified sections that advertise used cars and garage sales. And in there was an ad that said wanted singer for a band, which, by the way, I'll give you a picture of it. I have it framed here at my house. And so the guy who put that ad out like 18 years ago, like a long time ago, was Brandon, who is my now partner and guitarist. And so, and the ad said, wanted a singer for a band, must be 18 to 24 years old. And at the time, I was like almost 24. And I was thinking, who are these little high school boys who are like trying to start a teen boy band, whatever? But I called them up. It was really a funny experience because Brandon was on the phone, and there's a bunch of kids in the background that he was kind of yelling at, telling him to like shut up. And I was thinking, wow, this guy's kind of young to have all these kids. Well, it turned out they were his siblings. He comes from a large family. And so the time we met for our rehearsal, I drove and met him in a small town, and I had to meet him at the gas station because where he lived, there's no service. It's on the back of a dead end road in the middle of nowhere.
On
When I tell
horseback.
the story today, my friends are like, don't you know how the Lifetime movies turn out? Like, that was a questionable idea, but it all turned out fine. So I followed him. It was, like April, but there was still snow because it's Wisconsin. And I went with him to their farm and met him and his brother. And I did a rehearsal. We were freezing freaking cold, standing in the garage, rehearsing with a bunch of farm cats walking around. But that was how it started.
And then you spoke about family. You have family involved in this band, right?
Yeah, yep. So we started as a cover band. It was Brandon, his brother, some friends. That was very short lived, but it gave us the experience of like getting involved in making music. But he and I quickly bonded and knew we wanted to have an original band. So then we stepped out and had a few different versions of the band. And pretty quickly, my younger brother, who was still in high school at the time, joined us as drummer. And he was with us almost consistently. He came in and out a few times, but pretty much like that first like 12, 14 years, he was our main drummer. And we created our album together and music videos together. But he now has a family. And so he stepped out in 2023 just with focusing on his family and his little kids. But so, yeah, for a long time, we went through a few different band members to we were a five piece, but it just got difficult to always keep a consistent five piece, like with life things. Like some people would come in the band and then they would have a hard time with work or with family keeping up with it. So for a long time we were three people. And we would have
Cool.
the rhythm guitar and bass. We would have them come through tracks, mostly from the reason was just because it was too inconsistent to get reliable bandmates. So we went that way for a number of years where it was Dave, Brandon, myself. But then in 2023, when Dave left the band, we had Zach come in on drums and then Ricky come in on bass, which we really wanted to be a four and maybe even someday a five piece live. Like we love playing with that energy of like all of us on stage.
I was just
So
asked about Zach and Ricky and how that shifted the
yeah,
band's energy or direction, having them now as permanent members.
yeah. Well, it helped that we were at a point where now we're established in the sound, like we're still evolve and grow together, but we've come so far and like finally really recognizing who Morningstar is. So Dave was a big part of we were figuring that out together, but now we're like, well, this is what we have. You can see the album, the music, the visual. We know how to do our own fog and lights and all the theatrics. And so we were able to say, reach out to people and be like, do you vibe with this? Do you see this vision? So they were able to step into a thing that's already got a foundation and we could all be just, it was easy. Like it's so nice that with them, it's been easy, because in the first startup years, when you're trying to figure out who you are, you have all these different ideas. So this was a little different because we're like, well, this is what we're all about. Like, do you want to be a part of that? Can we work with this together? It's just different.
Oh, that's cool.
It's been awesome. It's been awesome. We love it.
So
They're
tell us about this new single. So the song is called
yeah.
Free. It kicks it. It's got a nice power to it.
Thank you.
What is the theme of it? Where does it come from?
Yeah. So I wrote a book a few years ago, and I knew while I was writing it that it would be really cool to have an anthem, a theme song to go with it. And so Brandon and I wrote it while I was finishing the book. But then it just sort of like wasn't ready to be completed. And then we kept kind of working on it and then it came to completion about 9 months ago, but we decided to wait a little bit to release it until we knew that we are getting closer to our next album so we could release it and then come with more. Like we don't want to make people wait so long in between, so we're getting ready to roll out multiple songs over the next 6 to 9 months. But I wrote, so the song for me is really deeply personal because it's written with the same energy of my book Unleashed. It's all about removing your masks to be your true self. It's about radical authenticity, that power of how we become free and we feel personal freedom, the truer that we become to ourselves. And so, yeah, it's just like this experiment, of writing a book and then making a theme song to go with it and just going with it. And we've been really ecstatic to see how well it's been received from such a cross section of people.
Yeah. Well, you kind of answered possibly the question I had, which was if Morningstar had a mission statement, what would it be? And what's the story that proves that it's true?
Oh, wow. Okay, now I love that because I think in those ways all day in my business. So, but our band is its own thing as well. If Morningstar had a mission statement, it would be something around like you are accepted and awesome as you are. And I think the way we prove that is first how we treat people. Like we just really love actually interacting with people at shows, but then you get it through some of our music. Not all of our music is about that. Some of it's like, hit in innuendo of Lord of the Rings inspired or like video game inspired, but there's always deeper messages around embracing the like being healthy with who you are. There's some mental health themes, So I'm gonna have to take that one back to the band. Good band conversation. Say, what
Yeah.
is our mission and how do we prove it?
I think
Yeah.
radical honesty might be the one. Uh, being
Yeah.
honest with
Ooh, you said
yourself.
honesty. I say authenticity a lot, but honestly, like the radical honesty, that's a really, that could be it too, because it's about being honest with yourself.
And honest with other people too, like accepting them for who they are and not prejudging. It's really easy, especially metal. It's easy to prejudge somebody just because they listen to metal. It's like, oh, they're this type of person. But really, there's all kinds of different flavors of it. So be who you are and keep going on your journey of discovery and we know how important it is for us in our business to be authentic, but I'm happy that you're able to apply this as a band and kind of move forward with it.
Yeah. Yeah. We're just like, and we have such a healthy dynamic within our band and with fans too. I know it might sound cheesy, but it is like about real connection. Like it's cool that some people, for them, their music life is all about, hardcore partying or whatever, but um we're not really about that. Like we like to have fun, but like have real conversations and feel good. Like everyone's just, I think in general, a lot of society and a lot of music and rock and metal is kind of shifted in that way too. Like we laugh a lot about how years ago it used to be like starting shows at 10 or 11 or 12 at night and like the drinking and the Red Bull and the coffee, which I still love my coffee. But now it's like we're getting ready for a festival next week and I'm planning all of my fresh squeezed juices and,
Yeah.
what time are we going to bed? So we're well rested. And I don't know, it's just,
I,
we want to take care of ourselves and each other. And I want to do that in my life and who I am in my work and in my music.
the excesses of yesteryear are no longer sustainable, and they're not ethical either, especially the way people were treating women, for example, like just nothing, disposable. It wasn't sustainable. It wasn't great. It was what it was. There's a lot of music back in that days I like. I'm happy I probably don't know what happened behind the doors of the
Yeah.
backstage, but
Yeah.
I find that today it's a much different environment. I don't always get to go backstage, but when I do, oftentimes people are so respectful. They're not partying, they're not, doing drugs. They're actually doing probably a nice smoothie. Because I think to make it right now, you need to be healthy. You need to be mentally alert, and sometimes musicians wear their heart on their sleeve and they actually use this as a form of therapy to let things out, which I think is just fantastic. Some of the best conversations I had were with artists who are not afraid to talk about the things that maybe would have been taboo a decade ago, talking about depression, PTSD, suicidal thoughts. But being able to be open about that now is really refreshing, and I think it's helping a lot of people. So it's really
Yeah.
interesting to see that yes, the music industry is going in a direction where it's maybe not feasible to make a living out of it unless you're really successful or really don't care. But also, it's something that's so needed, and I hope one day we're going to solve that, crack that nut and find out how to make this sustainable for musicians because art is very important. I think it's important to all of us as a society to have an outlet and to have
Yeah.
people create art so that we can consume it and just enjoy it. And I think it's good for our mental health to listen to it or watch it or whatever it is. So
I
that's
love,
the
I
challenge.
listen, yeah, I love like everything you said. Yes to all of it. We call our weekly band rehearsal like our weekly therapy. And it's like it's so wild because it's so there's the out there, the big macro of the world, but then I also look at it's interesting how sometimes what we micro experience is also happening on the macro level to like I think about, 10, 15, 20 years ago trying to be in a band and all the ways I thought I had to be, where it's so flipped now into what you're saying. Like it's the same thing. We're so real with each other. We always check in. And if someone's having a mental health struggle, like we ask them, is it supportive if we rehearse or is it better for you to be with your family tonight? And like family always comes first. And just like the way that we communicate and support each other. And also, yeah, the part that you hit on about women, I lived that too. Even though I'm like don't consider myself very old yet. I mean, I want to live a long time, so I don't want to age myself, but we can totally see the shift from when we started, the way I was communicated to, talked about, like, just because of being a female front singer, a lot of times the way we were treated or the way people would speak to me, Brandon would always witness it. We're like, would they have spoken to you that way? It's wild.
Did you
And
feel
it is
invisible?
changing. Oh, it was more like people wanting to tell me the ways I was supposed to be,
Mm.
like fit their expectation of what a woman is, fit their expectation of what a front person is, fit their expectation of what a person in metal is supposed to be. It's, yeah, it's, and it reflects the same way that as societally, some of those ideas about what makes a woman, then they want to, the same way it happens in general, it happens with a person that fronts a band.
It's interesting because I don't like using the terms like a female fronted or an all woman band. I like to
Right.
try to level the playing field and just treat everybody as a musician. You're a musician first and foremost. What gender you are doesn't really matter. You should be judged on how well you play, how well you sing, how well you present yourself on stage, the effect that you have on people, your writing. Those are the things that really matter. Yeah, it's nice to see that it's slowly changing. Maybe not ideal yet, but I think it's becoming safer for women in this environment. I remember even during the Riot Girl movement, what was the band? The wife of one of the Beastie Boys, uh, sh-
Oh,
Rebel Girls song. Anyway, they used to talk
sorry. I
about
was like,
like get the women to the front, of the mosh pit and don't hurt them. Like let them enjoy it too.
yeah,
I thought that was really cool, but that was the beginning of this movement of like making it safe for women to even enjoy like
yeah,
harder music or places where
yes.
normally there'd be like a bunch of sweaty people in the front, normally men banging into each other, which can be dangerous at times. But
So my dream, if I someday I hope that we are big enough playing huge stadiums, and I've always wanted to have reserved section at the front for anyone who's shorter, anyone like in a wheelchair, and pregnant women. Like, that's my vision is so they can see and they can have fun, but also not get smushed.
I know my wife always has somebody that's 2 feet taller than her stand right in front, like pass us and then go right in front of her, and she's 5 foot nothing. Uh,
Yeah.
like, come on.
Right. And I want the tall people to be good with who that they're tall too. But like, yeah, I totally feel that. I mean, I've been to some huge stadium shows that I've loved, but I literally afterward Brandon will be like, oh my gosh, blah 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 was awesome. I was like, I couldn't see that part. I listened, but I couldn't see it. I'm like,
So what's
I'm like, to like shrink down. Sometimes he'll shrink down and like walk around the house and he's like, wow, the world is different from your perspective. I'm like, yes, it is very different being that much.
what's next for the band? What's coming up on the agenda?
Oh, well, so we're playing a big festival in the Midwest called Rock Fest. We are so excited. That's coming up next week and working toward our next album, making headway on that, still pulling together some shows and tours, but just that excited to make that momentum with the album and then use it as an opportunity to hopefully play further and wider on a tour.
There you have it. Morningstar. Check them out on Spotify or
All
whatever
the
platform
platforms.
you use. And check out the new song Free, where you have a goal to get a certain amount of listens within a certain amount of time. So what's that goal?
Yeah, well, our goal is to hit the charts, and
Yeah.
we are on. It looks like we have a chance of hitting some of the charts that we're tracking for. And not like the really big one like Billboard, but that would be a goal in the future. So this is like one step in that journey as we keep going with releasing the album. Um, as many listens as we can get and shares.
All right. So that's your homework to the people who are listening today. Listen to the song and share it, and let's help Morningstar have a new day. Thanks so much,
Thank
Amber. We love talking to you.
you. Thank you.